Introduction to Market Grid. The Market Grid displays market data for numerous instruments in a grid-like format and gives you the ability to quickly trade any of those instruments with an open ticket or MD trader. You can also organize the display of instruments to your liking by using tabs, and you can also display market depth for an instrument with a simple mouse click. Here's a basic example of a market grid that I've created within the TT Web platform. Adding instruments to an existing tab. To add an instrument to an existing tab, simply double left click any row within an existing tab in the market grid. Clicking on a row that is already populated will insert a new row above that instrument. Clicking on a blank row after the last instrument will simply add the instrument to the bottom of the grid. So here's an example. The September mini S&P contract is the first symbol within the market grid. If I double left click over that particular symbol, this will then allow me to insert a symbol as the first symbol in the market grid itself. If I double left click below the last symbol in the market grid, this will then allow me to insert a symbol towards the bottom of the list within the existing symbols in the market grid. When you double left click, use the search or explore to add one or more instruments to the market grid. If you choose a product, all the instruments available for the product are added to the market grid. So in this case, you can either use the search bar by simply typing in the symbol of choice, and you can either select the contract month and year if you want to add that specific symbol. If you want to add all the available contract month and years, then just simply select the symbol without the contract month and year present. So in this case, you see ES here. You see ES September 16 here. So this is specific to the September 2016 contract, or with this contract here, you'll select ES, and this will add all the available contract months. This is a demo environment, so I'm a bit limited in looking at distant contract months outside of 2017, so therefore it only added those particular symbols with that contract year. Here's an example of me using the Explorer option versus the search tool. I'm going to simply select the exchange, the type, as well as the product, and I can go ahead and select the contract month and year of choice. Or if I hold down my Control key on the keyboard while simultaneously left-clicking, this will allow me to select multiple instruments. Hit select, and that will add the symbol within the market grid. Adding a new tab. You can also add more tabs to the market grid to allow you to monitor different sets of instruments within the same widget. To add a new tab, simply click the plus icon to the right of the existing tab within the market grid. Next, choose or select a product and either start typing in the field or use the Explore function to find the product you want to add. Click OK, and you will see the additional tab has been created, and now you have the instruments inserted within the additional tab market grid. Managing tabs. You can move, rename, copy, and remove tabs from the market grid. To reorder the tabs, drag a tab to its new position. If you drag the tab away from the widget, a new market grid is added to the desktop populated with the instruments in the tab. Here's an example. If I left-click this particular tab here and drag it to the left, that will swap the position of the existing CME tab, and now you can see that the CME tab is secondary and the E-mini S&P 500 tab is now first. Left-click, simply swap positions. Now if you left-click and drag the tab outside of the market grid, this will actually create an independent tab and separate the tabs, and now you can see that both market grids are independent from each other. To rename a tab, select Rename Tab from the tab's context menu by right-clicking on the tab name. Simply select Rename Tab. Type in the new name. You can hit Save, and the tab name has been changed. To restore a tab's name to its original value, select Restore Tab from the context menu. So you'll right-click, and you'll select Restore Tab Name. this will be defaulted to the original tab name that was first created when you created the tab. To copy a tab, select Copy Tab from the tab's context menu. So we'll use this example down here. Right-click, Copy Tab. This will then create an additional tab with the exact replicate of the first tab. Again, it's right-clicking, Copy Tab. Moving or copying instruments to a new tab. Select one or more contracts you want to move or copy to a new tab. So in this case, we have an existing market grid with ES contracts. When I left-click on each of the symbols, you can see that I'm selecting each one of the symbols independently. And how you're able to identify that is you can see the highlight, which represents which symbol is selected. In order for you to select multiple instruments, you can hold down Control on your keyboard while simultaneously left-clicking on a symbol within the market grid to select multiple instruments at one time. Right-click on a selected contract after you selected the specific symbols that you'd like to copy or move, and then you will have access to the particular context menu. And what you're going to want to select is either Copy to New Tab or Move to New Tab in order for you to create an additional tab with the selected symbols that you selected. So in this case, Copy to New Tab. If you wish to name the tab, if desired, just go ahead and name it. For now, let's click OK. And now you can see that the tab has been created with the selected symbols that you selected from the prior tab. You can always right-click, rename it to call it something else, and hit Save. Hiding inactive instruments. Market Grid supports a live-only mode that allows you to hide instruments that are not currently being traded. When you enable live mode, Market Grid displays only instruments that have an active bid, an active offer, or last trade price. TT calculated prices are not used when determining whether an instrument is active. Keep in mind when you first enable live only mode, you might notice a slight delay, particularly for products with many instruments, while all available instruments are evaluated. Now I do apologize because of the environment that I'm using in this demonstration. This particular function is not available for me to use within this specific environment that I'm using. But just to give you a little idea of what the inactive mode is, if you right-click in the market grid, you'll see an option that says Enable Live Only, as you can see here. And here's an example of the Euro currency contract. So you can see that I have contracts from September 2016 that spreads all the way out to June 2021. All right, so if you notice, September 2016 as well as December are the only two available contracts that have a last trade price. And if you look in terms of active bids and offers, December 2017 was pretty much from March to December, you'll see that these contracts have an active bid and offer but no last trade price. So anything beyond that, you can see there's really no activity with those distant contract months. So if you have no interest in seeing inactive markets such as these that are fairly distant, if you right-click and enable live only, this will only show you active markets within the market grid. If you decide that you want to see contracts regardless of activity or inactivity, then do not activate the enable live only, and therefore you'll see all the instruments listed within the market grid regardless of activity or inactivity. And that's pretty much the hiding inactive instrument function by right-clicking within the market grid and going to enable live only. Displaying market depth. The market grid shows the aggregate market depth data for all orders at the same price level. You can also display additional levels of depth for a contract. Just keep in mind that not all exchanges provide market depth data. However, it's very easy to access this particular function. Just simply click the plus sign by a contract to display its market depth. So here's a demonstration. There's the plus sign. If I left click, you can see now 5 levels. When the market depth is open, the market grid by default will provide you 5 levels of depth. That default setting can be changed in the market grid settings. So for example, if I right-click in the body of the market grid and go to Settings, you'll see an option that says Depth Increment, and just simply change the value to your choice. So for example, 10, Apply, Save, And now you can see there are 10 levels of market depth displayed within the market grid. You can also change the depth increment as well by using these up and down arrows to change the market depth increment as well. Using label rows. You can add label rows to help you identify different sections of the rows in the market grid. You might use this feature to provide visual cues for a market grid with many rows. For example, I'm going to go ahead and add some instruments here that are all related to index products. So we have the mini NASDAQ, and we'll also add the mini midcap. Now if you right-click over a symbol to access this context menu, you can go ahead and select Insert Label Row. Enter the desired label text and simply press Return. So here's an example of me adding currency products. I'm going to go and right-click on the first symbol of the currency products and select Insert Label Row and type in currencies. Just hit Enter on my keyboard, and now you can see the label rows have been created. To rename a label row, just right-click on the label row text and select Edit Label. So in this case, I'm selecting the indexes label that I've created. Right-click, Edit Label, and we can call this Indices, for example. Here's another example. I selected the currencies label row, right-click, Edit Label, and we can call that Futures FX. To remove a label row, simply right-click on the row and select Remove Row from the context menu. Launching widgets from a market grid. From a market grid, you can also quickly open other widgets for a selected instrument to place orders or to see additional market data. Examples would be MD Trader, Order Ticket, Chart, Times, and Sales. There are 3 styles of widgets that can be launched from the market grid. You can use a floating order entry widget, an independent widget, as well as a linked widget. Here's an example of launching a floating order entry widget. When you click a cell for an instrument's bid or offer price, the bid-ask quantity on open position, a floating order entry widget will open pre-populated with the selected value so you can quickly enter an order. Based on the order entry global settings, either an order ticket or MD Trader widget will open. So in this case, you can see that I have a existing market grid, and you can see there's a bid and the offer price here. So what happens if I left-click, let's say in the bid column here, this will pull up an MD Trader. Now, by default, it will pull up the order ticket. I've changed the global settings to open up a MD Trader, and to do this, you're just going to simply go to Edit, Global Settings. You want to make sure that you set the order entry section to the left, and by default, it's selected as order ticket, as you can see here. So if I save this, now watch what happens when I click either the bid or offer within the symbol within the market grid. Now you can see that it's opening up a floating order ticket versus a floating MD Trader. So it's based on preference. If you want a floating MD Trader to populate when you click on either the bid or ask price or bid or ask quantity, or if you have an open position, typically when you have a position open, you'll have the position display here. So basically you can either click here, the bid quantity or ask quantity, or you can click the bid or ask price to populate a floating order entry widget. If you want to change it to default to either a DOM or a order ticket, go to Edit, Global Settings, Order Entry here, and just simply choose either MD Trader or Order Ticket. Launching an independent widget. To open an independent widget pre-populated with the selected instrument, right-click on an instrument row and highlight Open. You will then see the available options that you can choose. be sure to select the desired widget and move it to the desired location. So for example, MD Trader. In this case, this is an independent widget, which means that this is not linked to the market grid. Therefore, the new widget opens with no colored border. Simply move the new widget to any location within your workspace to organize. Launching a linked widget from a market grid, you can open widgets linked to the selected instrument. The content of the linked widget updates automatically when you select another instrument in the grid. To launch a linked widget, right-click on a symbol within the market grid. You will see a menu option that says Launch Linked. In this case, I'll select MD Trader once again. If you notice this time, the new widget opens with a yellow border. This represents a linked widget. Now when I go to select any instrument within the market grid, it will simultaneously change the dome to that symbol as well. You have the ability to create a linked MD Trader, order ticket, chart, times and sales, as well as an options chain. Customizing settings. If you right-click on the body of the MD Trader, you will have a settings menu option. The grid font size will adjust the font size to suit your preference and use bold text if desired. Depth increment sets the number of additional depth levels to show or hide when displaying market depth for an instrument. Color row by years. This particular setting will highlight the contracts that expire within a year. Highlight price cells on update, enabling this setting to highlight a price cell every time it updates. Show tabs will set whether you want to show tabs at the bottom of the widget. And then you have set market grid columns. This is simply a selection of different columns that you can apply or disable within the market grid itself. Just simply scroll down the list and check or uncheck any particular column that you do or do not want to see. So in this case, if I do not want to see, for example, settlement price, I'll simply uncheck, click OK, apply, and save, and now the settlement price has been removed from within the market grid.